Okay, hello everyone, welcome to Mystic Academy. We are tonight, or this afternoon for you, wherever you are in the world, doing a class to introduce transpersonal psychology. I see some of you are here for the first time. This class will be conducted in voice. If you have any problems with the sound, just need to send a message to me, please. I'll be doing the technical stuff today. And our main speaker and host facilitator is going to be Venus, who's just on my right hand side here. So if you've not been here before, just a little bit about us. Mystic Academy started in 2006. We've got a fairly large membership and proud to be one of the first spiritual Sims, which was a large community group here back then in the day, and we have since then resurfaced and regenerated and are up and running doing regular things here. And some of the people around this room are also in the staff team, do take part in those activities. If you've come here today, we certainly want to find out a bit more about you, and if you want to get involved, it would be great to talk further on it. So we have a really exciting topic today, and it's transpersonal psychology. This is of great contemporary interest at the moment. We have, to back up the voice-driven class, a note card also, and we'll be distributing that out during the lesson. If you want to join the group, just send me an instant message and I will add you if you're not already in it. No problem with that. So I will pass over to Venus in a second. This class is recorded in a couple of ways. We do record our lessons for those who can't make it, both in a video way, so like my screen's being captured right now, and also in an audio format too. And we will make these things available to people who come along to these lessons, so you can see it afterwards or show it to your friends to tell them how great it was. Right, okay, so I'm going to hand over now and to Venus, who's now going to begin. Over to you.
Hello one more time. Hope everyone is in their comfortable positions by now and can hear me on voice. Welcome to Mystic Academy Circle, and especially the ones that are here for the first time. I will just introduce myself a little bit before I continue with our today's topic. So I'm facilitator here in Mystic Academy for a little more than 6 months now. Normally I would use main chat to share information in our discussions, but today I decided to be on voice so I can, say a few words instead of typing them. This typing can be a bugger sometimes, especially when you want to express yourself in the moment. But many of our members still prefer that way, and it is also practical to keep transcripts of the class. And another reason is because I have a personal interest in this specific topic and did much research on it lately. I see myself as an open-minded individual with a genuine desire to learn and expand. And in my real life, I live in Toronto for 5 years now, working as a freelance interpreter, Serbo-Croatian language, since 2012, I think. And I'm also an entrepreneur since, I think it was like 1996 when I started doing entrepreneurship, or like doing business, basically. I started back in Croatia and now continued here in Toronto. In my free time, my interests vary from, doing some acrylic work, reading music, doing research on many spiritual activities like meditation, yoga, mindfulness, and all the way to my interest in traditional and sacred medicine, plants, sustainable agriculture, and healthy community living, and so much more, really. And of course, exploring Second Life here, which I always see as a great creative platform, as well as the nice way of socializing with awesome people around the world. Speaking of which, in September last year, I met Dragon here, and after we get to know each other better, he gave me one note card where I could read about history of the Mystic Academy he founded back in 2006. After I read that note, to be honest, I was really, really impressed by the amount of classes they held here, as well as the number of bright people involved, and feedbacks on changing many lives. And it was just not feeling right for me, realizing it was closed now. So we discussed it for a while together with other members, and we just realized that it should be reopened. So we discussed. So since then, I think it was October 2015. We have covered many different topics, so in which I really enjoyed, and here are just a few of them, so you have an idea what we have been doing by now. So we had authenticity, where we explored the importance of our quality of being sincere about our intentions and being real and truthful to ourselves in all times, and how being authentic can change our life for better, really. Then we had shedding identity, where we shared the experience of seeing ourselves as our roles really in life, more than the essence of who we really are, and how changing that view and understanding can heal us and often make us feel much better. Then we talked a little bit about unconditional love. Well, this was a very interesting subject, where we had different opinions from our members. There were those who do not believe in unconditional love at all, and then there were those who were claiming they are living that way right now. So it created an interesting discussion, really. We also had Vedic astrology. We had dreams, food for a good mood, and so on. So the last one we had, I think it was last week, was Reiki healing, which was held by Maya, who is a Reiki master, and Rain, who is producing voice meditations. Those are two amazing women that join us as facilitators here in Mystic Academy. And today I will do the brief introduction of the broad topic, which is transpersonal psychology. So when I was preparing for this circle, I asked myself questions, the same ones that I will try and answer for you. So let me just start with, first I will start with meaning of the word transpersonal. Then I will say history, a little bit about a history of transpersonal psychology and how it is today. So most of us in some point of time in our lives take a moment to look inside ourselves, to discover our inner self. So for some, this might be a fleeting moment, but for others it can, last for years and years and years. Transpersonal psychology is a field of psychology for all of the soul searchers out there. So the meaning of the word transpersonal, we can divide it into trans, which translates to beyond, and personal, which refers to personality. Therefore, transpersonal psychology is a field of psychology that studies the human aspect that goes beyond the realm in which the so-called normal personality operates. So the discipline attempts to describe and integrate spiritual experience with modern psychological theory, and to formulate a new theory to encompass such experience. Transpersonal psychology has made several contributions to the academic field and the studies of human development, consciousness, and spirituality. Transpersonal psychology has also made contributions to the fields of psychotherapy and psychiatry. So studying transpersonal psychology often involves studying spirituality as well, and the parts of the ego that are typically unexplored. So because this field of psychology deals with with spirituality, it often involves getting familiar with previously unknown levels of consciousness and life beyond the physical plane. Transpersonal psychology has one of the most interesting histories. This is really interesting, the history of transpersonal psychology, of all fields of psychology. It started during the psychedelic hippie wave of the 1960s. It was around this time that two Harvard psychologists, Richard Alpert, also known as Ramdas, and Timothy Leary, they began experimenting with psychedelic drugs, namely LSD and psychedelic mushrooms. Their experiments were meant to discover altered states of consciousness and transpersonal aspects of the human psyche. Although these two unorthodox professionals were fired from the university after their unusual experiments, the seed of transpersonal psychology had been planted and had begun to grow. So in 1967, a small group of psychology professionals gathered to create a field of psychology with the purpose of studying all areas of human existence, including our transpersonal existence. So from this group, transpersonal psychology began to come into its own. Today, what is happening is psychedelic drugs are not used in the field of transpersonal psychology. Well, at least not in traditional circles. But it is, however, still a growing field, especially considering we humans are becoming more spiritual and, looking for new holistic ways to feel better about ourselves and our lives, which I found very important as well, as the fact that non-pharmaceutical treatments is practiced in this field of psychology. So they are not using as many as, pharma medication in this treatment. It's more about, person-to-person therapy and spiritual activities like yoga or meditation and so on. And they are trying to heal people in that sort of approach. So why do we need transpersonal psychology? So the field of transpersonal psychology can help realize that people are ultimately spiritual beings and physical bodies, and that our consciousness has more than one level. So just by understanding these concepts, individuals will often have an easier time reaching self-actualization and self-fulfillment in life. So if we ask ourselves, what does a transpersonal psychologist do? So what are those therapists? How are they different from, regular, psychologists? So transpersonal therapists, they work directly with people that might be lost spiritually, or just those that are looking for help finding themselves. So in order to live a happier life, these professionals can also help patients change their negative behaviors, improve their relationship, or even just explore their spiritual sides. Therapy and counseling in transpersonal psychology might involve such things as meditation, dream work, altered states of consciousness, and vision quests. These types of therapies can be used to help patients see themselves not merely as flesh, blood, and bones, but as divine individuals with a heightened sense of the world around them, which is like a totally different approach than the regular psychology. So we have here a little, exercise of understanding the three layers of ourselves. So we have these three layers based on transpersonal psychology. It is the mask. First one is the mask. So we create an idealized defensive mask to protect ourselves from hurt and rejection. We hide our emotional pain even from ourselves. So this mask or false self dampens down the vibrancy of love of our core truth. The second one is the wounded child, ego, lower self. So the next layer of our being is the wounded child or lower self of our human nature. Our ego self is compromised of separated, of rejected parts of self that keep love and connection out. So this self-protection causes great pain and isolation, and our lower self does not trust in love. So when we repress and reject our emotions and do not look at the benefits, at the beliefs that create our emotional pain, our life energy becomes stagnant and hardens into defensive physical armoring in our heart and body. So our armor keeps love out. So our disturbing emotions and untrue negative beliefs cover up the love that is always basically there. And then we have the core, the higher self. We are at our center a pulsating core that is love, that knows our pure goodness and unconditional lovability. So this energetic core self seeks to grow and expand. When we are in touch with our core self, we love ourselves and our fellow creatures unconditionally. So we give and receive joyously. We live in alignment with our intuition, and we find great joy in making a meaningful contribution to life. We must look honestly at our masked self and heal the emotional pain that lives below it before we can embody our authentic self on an ongoing basis. And I will just say a little bit more about the goal of transpersonal psychology. So transpersonal therapy considers self-actualization as an ongoing process of self-fulfillment. Consciousness researcher and psychologist Abraham Maslow said, "What a man can be, he must be. It is the desire to become more than one is, to become everything that one is capable of becoming." So each person's capability is different. So the characteristics of a self-actualized person, according to Maslow, seem simple but are elusive. Self-actualized people have realistic perceptions of who they are. They understand the dynamics of the world they live in, but are not reactive, because their survival needs are met. They are able to focus their efforts on helping to solve problems in their communities, and they are respectful of convention, but are often positively unconventional in their behavior and attitudes. If you have any questions about what I just was reading here and what I was saying before, feel free to ask me now. Until then, I found out, if you want to find out more about people that are behind the transpersonal psychology, there are names like there are well-known transpersonal psychologists, Stanislav Grof. I can, share the info, like the link if you need. Then Carl Rogers, Ken Wilber, Sri Aurobindo, Ellen Emmett, who is the wife of Rupert Spira, John Batista, And yeah, those are just a few of them, because still transpersonal psychology is not so popular, unfortunately. But there are like many, like more and more people trying to understand the importance and the value of that kind of therapy, and how it can benefit to people. So I hope that with this, this information, you can, find out more about this and see that you have other options if you need any kind of psychological, you know, therapy or whatever, which is like totally normal in these days. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And avoiding, just those medicines, I think is very, very good thing, to consider in this kind of therapy. Okay, so yeah, this is my part, and now I'm signing out, and Dragon, you can take it over from here. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, so that's nicely naturally leading me on to what I'm going to talk about, actually, Ewan. Thank you for that. So hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm going to start now to. Oh, hello. I think someone's just arrived and sat down on another chair. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. I think who is that just arrived? Is that Verita? Verita just arrived and sat on the same chair Morty's sitting on. So if that's okay, that's fine with me. But if it's not, then you might want to just check that out. So let's now go into the topic of archetypes, naturally on from what Owen just said. Okay, so Carl Gustav Jung, eminent psychologist and theorist also, developed these concepts of archetypes in the theory of human psyche. So it sort of links to the idea of transpersonal psychology being about a collective, an understanding of us being part of a much wider collective consciousness. And the 12 archetypes are effectively universal mythical characters that reside within the worldwide collective consciousness of people around the world over, and even in the things like Hollywood movies and things like that, we've kind of see these things being played out, and I'm going to allude to that later. So these 12 primary types of archetypes symbolize basic human motivations. Each type has its own set of values, meanings, and personality traits. And there's different types of types, should we say. There are the ego, soul, and self type. And they all sort of share some common driving sources, these different types. So the ego one, for example, has an ego-full defined agenda. Now, often we have one primary or primordial type, and that's sort of like done on the basis of doing like a kind of a quiz or a test. And there may well be secondary and tertiary types too, but our understanding of our kind of ego, soul, and self types, the sort of first, second, and third ones, give us an opportunity to have a self-awareness of, some of our driving motivations and also some of our areas for development ourselves in a more of a transparent way. So, in the word archetype itself, what it means, it comes from ancient Greek, and it's the root word of archetype is archein, which means original or old, and typos, which means pattern, model, or type. So if you kind of combine the meaning of that, you get the word original pattern. So this kind of like, these are the core imprints, should we say, of which all other concepts are derived from and modeled or emulated from. So I think a nice interactive thing to do is to look at what our own archetypes are ourselves. And also I wouldn't mind doing something a bit more fun around looking at Hollywood and some sort of popular films and how these archetypes play out in them. So I want to share a graphic with you shortly on that basis. So ego types, let me explain to you some of the different types, the well-known types of these archetypes. We have the innocent type, okay, and they all have a kind of a core desire. They have a motto, they have a talent, a strategy, a great fear, a thing that they're afraid of, and often can impel them to do certain things and behave in certain ways, and a special talent also. So what we will do is I will just give you an opportunity to do a quiz and to work out which types you are. And we can also look at how these types again play out in Hollywood. And I'll look at the most popular film. I'm hoping you've all seen Star Wars at some point. And if you haven't seen Star Wars, well, where have you been, really? I will find an example of a picture to show you where you can see them. Let's bring that up on the screen now. So let me share this with you in chat, okay? Just a couple of graphics. So I'm going to give you a file here. Oh, good. 3 or 4 movies is a good amount. So if you can bring up that image, everyone. If you don't mind, if you just bear with me a moment, I'm going to bring the graphic also into the screen here. It won't take me long. Just let you load up the URL yourself so you have it to hand. I'm going to put the graphic into the screen next to me too. Just a moment. This here is the screen which shows you the archetypes that are out there. This is kind of, I often find that the namings of these are, I'm just pointing at it there, that the namings of these are they vary slightly, but they have the general idea. So if you can you all see the screen over here? I'm standing. This shows you the types of archetypes that exist, and you may identify with some of those. That's great. If you can just see to my right here. And what I'll do is I want to just pass out now an opportunity for you to do something interactive. And I'll give you a quiz to do. So you can have a little go at looking at your archetype yourself. Yes, indeed, most of them are women. There are lots of these quizzes here, actually. God, there's tons of them looking online now. Let's give you the link, right, so you can have a go. Why don't you all have a go at this? Give yourselves a few moments. I think it'll take about maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do the survey. Let's just post you the link now. And once you've finished doing the survey, could you then return back to main chat the type that you come up with? And you might well have a primary type, and you might have a secondary and third one too. That's great. Well, we've got some really interesting mix of people there. Yeah, know about the Mercury retrograde thing. So we've got a nice mix of people. We've got creators, we've got lovers, we've got explorers, we've got a caregiver, we've got an explorer here and a caregiver, another caregiver, so, and a ruler in there too. So a nice range of people there. Yeah, Venus is definitely a creator. Yeah, this is there's many different types of quizzes to do. I chose a particularly short one, and what I'm going to do is this class is going to go on till another sort of like 20 minutes or so. There are more in-depth quizzes. This is just a very quick one to do that's kind of appropriate in a short class, just to get an idea for the sorts of things that you find. So doing these quizzes is just a way to enhance your self-awareness of your kind of primordial type. And if we can get a feel for our ego, self, and soul types, all 3 of them, then there becomes an opportunity to try to connect them all together, like in a triangle, effectively, so they can work in a kind of harmony. And transpersonal psychology is often trying to work on, some kind of like wounded sort of aspects of ourselves that aren't quite together or integrated. So our movement towards self-actualization is really this opportunity to bring together those parts of ourselves into one harmonized being. So what I'll do is just refer you to, I'm going to show you another quiz shortly, which is a bit more in-depth, and also look at this screen over here, a link that I posted earlier about the movies and how these archetypes play out in the films. So it's a bit of a fun thing to do. Let me make sure you guys have the graphic also for this. There's a link I posted out earlier on. I'm going to just put it out again. I think it's much clearer if you actually open up in a web browser. So if you can bring up this in a browser window, this link I'm posting now in main chat, that link there, that will give you sort of a view of how some of these characters play out. Someone spent a lot of time making this graphic, I think. Thank you, Teresa. Let's look at some of these popular films. Now I got here Harry Potter. Hopefully some of you might have seen Harry Potter. Fairly well-known film. Lord of the Rings. We've got Lost there if you watch that series, and you've got Star Wars there. Firefly. I've got here Batman further down. The Matrix. The Lion King. Cars and Simpsons. So, and Verity, I would say that sometimes you don't always see that the name of that person's the same. And if you say the wise old man, I'll take that as the wise old woman. If you can just swap the gender around in terms of the behaviour of that personality, I think it's just the way that these things are interpreted. But yeah, any feedback is really appreciated, because it's good to capture these things and give feedback to the teachers who put so much effort into preparing their classes. You can do so in voice as well. Voice is obviously a nice way to give feedback if you can't be bothered typing. But yeah, please, I really would appreciate it if you could do that.
Well, I'm just glad that there is a group like this, and that there is a place where we can explore together our personalities and some of our experiences here in SL and in real life as well. So I'm glad to be here, glad to be a part of this.
Thank you very much, Evan. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The RL-SL connection, I mean, it's more than a tenuous link. Whatever goes on here is obviously applicable to out there. In this environment here, we also are playing out part of one of our archetypes. We also can aspire to some of the higher self-actualized stuff, because in a way some of our basic needs can be met quite easily here, like our basic shelter and so on. That stuff is just sorted out with the SL. It's a lot easier, so we can actually go to work with some of our higher goals, and doing the kind of things like typing. I mean, I do work with MBTI profiling, and MBTI profiling is based on Jungian's archetypes, and they're a really kind of effective way of looking at, internationally actually, a way of looking at oneself and the areas. So taking part in MBTI testing and those sorts of things gives us an opportunity for self-development. I think you need to also have a discussion around it, look at how kind of strengths and weaknesses, but we're also varied. It's often looking at what the best format would be in a group discussion. How would it work best to talk about these things, and maybe giving case studies or examples and giving people activities to do outside between lessons might help bridge that gap. So thank you, everyone. We've left the meditation file open there. You're welcome to listen to that and just be at ease. So I'll come off voice now, and I'm hoping to see you all again. We've recorded this as a video, and we're just in kind of free-form chat now. So I'll just come off the recording now, and then we're just kind of in a free-form chat and chill for a little while, and then work out where we're all going next. Okay, thank you, everyone.